Blue Bailey.
And I'm Dextra de Novo, and this is Reading is Fundamental.
The show where we talk about news in entertainment law.
Yes, that leather daddy
And that drag queen
are both licensed California attorneys.
We celebrate queerness,
Sex positivity,
and reading bitches for filth.
and with that being said,
The library is now open.
officially.
The library is open.
Because reading is what? Fundamental.
The information on this podcast is for general information purposes only. Nothing in this podcast should be taken as legal advice for any individual, case, or situation. This information is not intended to create an attorney-client relationship. Sorry about it.
What?
Fundamental.
Hello, and welcome to the Reading is Fundamental podcast. I'm Dextra de Novo.
And I am thankful that we're only shooting from the waist up today.
Wow.
Because those are some hairy ass legs.
Wow.
You couldn't even, be nice and wear some sweatpants for me?
Listen, we're doing a RuPaul right now.
Yes. RuPaul wears sweatpants. RuPaul does not subject the audience to...
And you know full well that all my
those-
drag was just stolen.
Yes, your drag was stolen.
Thank you. You're over here being mean to me when my drag was just stolen. My car was broken into. They stole my drag suitcase and all my drag inside of it. So, thank you.
Well, that's what you get for parking your car with a suitcase in San Francisco.
I hid it. And I was going to go to a parking garage, and the parking garage was closed.
Okay.
Don't victim blame me. That is literally victim blaming. You're like, it's your fault for doing it.
I take it back, but it was your fault. So, aside from getting all your drag stolen, what have you been up to? Where have you been performing at? What's going on in the land of Dextra?
I have been doing my brunch in Alameda, which has been great. So
Can I say something about that?
Oh my God, here we go.
No, it's a nice thing. It's a nice thing. So, I don't like kids. I hate kids. But Alameda is like the land of kids. And your drag brunch occurs at a brewery where... I don't know how they get away with it, but kids are able to be there.
Well, it's always been like that. Like there's just like it's the thing. Like you go to the brewery on the weekend and like you bring the kids and like they play around or whatever while you're all chilling and having a beer.
And normally I would hate that, but it's super cute to see the little kids get so excited and run. They're like little zombies, like running after you in packs, trying to give you money.
That was the thing that like surprised me the most the first time we did Alameda Pride.
Yeah.
Was like I turned around and they were like chasing me.
Like a group of them.
Yes, I was like,
Not
oh my God.
Yeah, not like the slow zombies, like the World War Z, Last of Us, quick zombies.
And they're like, take my money.
My favorite part was when Margot.
Yeah.
My favorite thing in the world is when a drag queen throws the money in the air and it rains down.
Yeah.
And all the kids thought that she dropped it by mistake. And they just went on the floor and started picking up the dollar
It was
bills.
so cute. And they're like,
yeah.
here, you dropped this. You dropped it. And
Yeah.
she's like, oh, thank you. I know. Like,
Except one of them who ran with the money until his mom
she
was
did
like,
run. Yes.
go back.
Yes. Yeah.
But that warmed my little heart.
Yeah, it is very cute. And like this last time we did the drag brunch, they give the kids the tips and like, you take the tips. And as soon as I would grab it, the crowd would be like, oh, cute. Like, blah, blah, blah. They're adorable. And it's so cute when they want a picture afterward because then they just look at you and they're like, you're so pretty. Like, it's so great.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that. I did a wonderful gig in Washington, D.C.
Ooh, fancy.
I got to live my full fantasy. So it's a lawyer conference for privacy law. I've gone to this conference like 7 times.
That's your fantasy?
No, listen, girl. Okay, but they do like this LGBT night that's like a fundraiser, and it's gotten bigger and bigger every year. And last year they had queens, and this year I was like, do you need any queens? Blah, blah, blah. They're like, oh my God, you're a privacy attorney and you're a drag queen. Like, please, God, come do this, blah, blah, blah. It was fantastic. That day I went to the conference. I was like in lawyer drag, and then I like got into drag afterward. When I tell you that this room erupted, like I got on the mic and was like, hi, my name is Dextra de Novo. I call myself the Elwoods of drag because outside of drag, I am a privacy attorney. They fucking went crazy. Like, they couldn't believe it. I was like the biggest rock star for the night. They all wanted pictures. I met Max Schrems. You don't even know who that is.
I don't.
That's fine.
Is that the villain from Batman Returns?
Doesn't he sound like a villain?
He does.
He does. He totally does. So I got to live that fantasy, which is awesome, and perform in DC. And then just maybe a little over a week ago, we did a legalized drag show, which was a cast of all drag professionals. So we had like lawyers and paralegals and everything. And we raised over $10,000 for the ACLU Drag Defense Fund, which was amazing. A huge shout out to Pop Rocks and Juicy Lou for organizing it. We might be starting the House of Jurisprudence here soon.
You've been talking about that.
I have, and you're a little upset that I didn't invite you.
I know. I was supposed to be the second member of the House of Jurisprudence. It's just taking me a minute to explore.
You need to get yourself into drag.
The makeup drag.
Yes, you need to get yourself into drag. You said you've been in drag. You have.
I have.
But you have not been in your drag.
You've also said that you'd paint me for like about a year. That hasn't happened yet.
This is also, I've done your last like 3 Halloween looks.
Yeah, and you should be thankful. Thank you.
You're like, you're welcome for me allowing me to let you paint my face.
This canvas right here.
And you looked really good last year.
I did look really good. I do want to start exploring drag, and I'm very inspired by Dali and Astra Zero, who isn't a drag performer, but is an artist.
Yeah.
That creates kind of like really cool, sexy horror CGI art.
I think that's like where we cross over. It's like sexy, like naked AI men, and then it's like horror.
Yeah. Emphasis on the horror.
Yeah, horror and horror.
Horror and yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, I definitely, when you explained that to me, I was like, oh, this is Stefan's drag. Like, you're absolutely like the cross between Dali and Astra Zero. So we'll see when it comes up.
We'll see.
Yes. If you don't know, this man is an author. He wrote a book, and we didn't even know he could read. But it's called Blue Movie. It's found on unboundedition.com.
I think so.
Okay, you can find it there. But you've been doing a whole bunch of book tours, like book events for it. So
I really wanted to go to your fundraiser. I really wanted to go to the drag march protest in San Francisco. But out of the 5 weekends in April, I have been gone for 4 of them.
Yeah.
2 of them have been for book promotion, though, which has been awesome. I did one event at home in San Francisco at the Leatherman's discussion group. And we had a really good conversation about substance use and recovery in the gay community. And then I went to Fist Fest in Augusta, Georgia, and did a book reading by the pool.
By the pool?
Yeah.
This is the best thing. It's like, we went to New York and you did a book reading there.
The Eagle, yeah.
So it's like, and who was it? Somebody told Bianca, because Bianca was in town, and they're like, we're going to the Eagle. And like, what are you doing at the Eagle? They're like, we're doing a book reading at the Eagle. And she's like, there's a book reading at the Eagle?
I haven't heard that one before.
And now it's like there's a book reading at Fist Fest. Like, it's
girl, all of this is a tax write-off. I get to go to Fist Fest and save some money on it. But no, it was amazing. Like I'm really only a total top for fisting. I'm a total bottom in all other areas of my life. So it was fun to channel that energy. I've gone to fisting parties. Like my friend used to throw friendly fire in San Francisco, but I've never gone to a fisting weekend. And the energy there was just so amazing. Like I did the reading by the pool. Their big Saturday party was a fisting pool party. So there were just slings. There's about 10 slings all around the pool with guys getting their holes punched. And they even had drag queens.
Shut up.
Who did, guess what song they did? I told you already, but I'm going to tell you.
No, did you?
They performed Pink, You and Your Hand Tonight, which for Fist Fest is kind of
you
iconic.
And your hand. Oh, can't sing it, copyright. But that's a really great. Were they like fisting during the performance?
No, and actually like.
Did they have nails?
It was dark. I couldn't see. And some hot bottom came up to me to like punch his cunt out. So it was the one thing that would take me away from a drag show. But
sorry.
No, I was gonna say upcoming we have like IML and then an event here in LA at the Tom of Finland House.
Oh, that's right. You're gonna be at the Tom of Finland
so
House.
You should come down for that.
What date is it?
It's the day before that. We're recording in July.
I'm busy.
Wow. Well, with that being said,
I had a question about the Fist Fest. Did anybody eat like the whole weekend?
Girl, I did.
Okay, well, you're topping. Did any of these bottoms eat? Because it's like
they actually had a cafe there with like really good food by the pool. People were eating. Like I think people were
because it's a whole weekend full.
It's a whole weekend. Yeah, I mean, you made whatever you wanted the weekend.
if you were going from day 1 to day like 3, you couldn't eat.
You could eat, but I think you like would maybe hold out for like pizza and heavier foods for day 3. Yeah.
And you just
maybe it was a lot of milk.
Take a lot of Imodium.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're into finger painting, then go for it.
Stop!
We're not gonna kink shame here.
We're not king shaming. Oh my gosh. All right. For every episode, we have a mini and a main. Today's mini is about the Hermes trademark NFT.
Hermes, that's fancy.
Ooh, it is fancy.
You know, all right, like, before we get into this topic, one of my favorite SNL skits is these 2 girls that are former porn stars, and they're always trying to, like, get this scam going, and they're like, oh, we're not porn stars anymore, and they did a commercial for Hermes, but they always fuck up the name, so it was, like, Herman's handbags.
Herman's handbags.
Yeah.
Have you seen the one that's like, crystals?
Crystals, yes.
Bags.
So what's going on with Herman's?
With Hermes.
Hermes.
So there was this artist who goes by, I think their name is Rothschild. They created MetaBirkins.
What the fuck's a MetaBirkin?
An NFT. Do
What's
you know what
an
an NFT is?
Non-fuckable token.
Non-fungible token.
What's fungible mean?
Girl, I don't know.
Okay.
But like, I think it's like you can't trade it around.
Okay.
But there's NFTs made a whole thing or whatever, and everybody's starting to make money off NFTs. So he made this kind of like fake Birkin bag, an NFT, and started selling it, right?
Okay.
And he was a little bit different. It was the same like shape of the bag, right? Same shape of the bag, and he called them a MetaBirkin. So it's like, okay. Do you know what a Birkin is?
A Birkin's a bag.
Okay, a Birkin is the type of Hermes bag. Okay, there we go. So he called it a MetaBirkin. So Hermes obviously sued because
someone's selling digital pictures of a Birkin?
Well, this is kind of like, I mean, not to get into it too fast. I mean, you don't want to go the whole way, but like too soon. But like we talked about like the zone of like trademark, right? In a previous episode, we talked about like how you can expand into this. I mean, everybody's doing NFTs, so it isn't like crazy to think that Hermes might do an NFT like of their bag.
Okay.
In the future, like Nike's doing NFTs. You know what I mean?
Okay. Can I ask a question? Because NFTs are your thing. And
We're not taking questions at this time, but thank you.
Well, I'm sorry. What's the difference between an NFT and fan art? Like, to me, like, this just sounds like someone made like fan art of a Birkin bag and is trying to sell it.
Okay, so like an NFT is on the blockchain, right? You've probably heard of the blockchain. No, girl, you know
what's a blockchain?
Girl, I need you to like get up on the world before you come into this podcast, and you don't know anything. Like, you don't know what NFT is. You don't know how to say Hermes.
Well, educate me, Dextra.
Oh my God. So the blockchain is like a technology that records transactions in a ledger, right?
Okay.
So it's like there's like boom, 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 boom. And it's like this person sent this to this and this person sent this to this or whatever. It is completely non-erasable. So it's like you can see everywhere it goes, right? And who it went to, or at least the wallet number that it went to. And it can't be like changed at all. I don't know if I just said that, but and it's visible, like everybody can see it, right? So they're selling these digital files. They're NFTs. So like an NFT is like a digital piece of art.
Okay.
And they're selling them on the blockchain. So that means like if you sell it to this person, you can see who owns it and like what, you know.
And is there like any status? Like, I have this person's NFT, or like what? Where does
so
the
the
value
whole
come?
Exactly. Oh my God, I can't believe we haven't talked about this.
Maybe I'm just pretending like I don't know.
Are you really? Because it's like you really don't. Sometimes you really don't know. This is why I think NFTs are so dumb, because it's like, what is the value of it? You know what I mean? But I guess what is in the value of art? Like if it's just a canvas and whatever. But it's the value is you are the only person to have the keys to that NFT, basically, right?
Okay.
To that like file. So you're like.
So the value's in the file. So like someone could screenshot the picture.
Yes.
But they don't have access to the file.
Like you have, and it's traceable, like verifiable. This is yours.
Okay.
So this person created these works of art online.
Okay.
and called them MetaBirkins.
And it's basically fan art of Birkins. They like created a picture of a Birkin.
So
a digital picture.
A digital picture. It's interesting that you call it fan art because they sued for trademark infringement and dilution, trademark dilution.
Okay.
And I think it's pretty clear cut. Like, obviously, this person's doing this. Their defense was that it was like an artistic work, you know? And when they described like what they were trying to do with this artistic work, they said it was an endeavor to see what kind of value people would assign to two-dimensional objects. Okay, girl, that sounds like
eye roll.
Yeah, that sounds like, okay, what type of value? Like, okay,
Yeah.
so money. Like, you're trying to get money off of
Basically
this.
saying like we're trying to see if we can make a lot of money from this and not get caught.
Yes,
Okay.
like that's what I'm saying. Like, you're obviously doing this, and I mean, it ended up being pretty clear cut. Like, he had. They got statements from him saying like, "Oh, we're trying to make as much money as possible," or like whatever. And it's pretty clear infringement to me because it's like he didn't say like this is an artwork or anything like this. He called them MetaBirkins. You know what I mean? It could have been like fantasy purses or something like that.
Yeah.
The only thing that he really changed is like Birkins, you know, are made of like leather, let's say, or like whatever. His were all like fuzzies, like fuzzy purses.
So it seems like the big issue here is that he's actually using the word Birkin to sell these NFTs.
Which is trademark.
Trademark, yeah.
They have the trademark in Birkin.
I mean, that part makes sense. So people are going to these MetaBirkins and thinking that they're actually getting a product from Birkin.
Yes.
And that's when the real Birkin is stepping in and being like, no, you can't do that. And what did the court say?
The court sided with Hermes.
Okay.
So it was infringement. So like, I mean, we could talk about like infringement a little bit and like what is dilution, but any like infringement is just the use of a trademark or a trade name in commerce that is sufficiently similar to the mark, such that it confuses people or diminishes the public's perception of that mark. So like you were saying, people thought that buying this MetaBirkin that they were buying like a Birkin, like an Hermes Birkin. So that's like evidence of consumer confusion right away.
You know, this reminds me of, and I don't even know if this case won or not, but remember the fake dog toys?
Oh,
were
yes.
like Poochie.
Yes, instead of Gucci. What was the other one? But they were like, there was like a bottle, like a whiskey bottle.
Oh, yeah.
And yes, exactly.
And it basically, to me, it kind of reminds me of that, where it was a dog toy, and the dog toy was shaped like a Gucci bag, but it was called like Poochie. And I don't remember, did the dog toys win? I feel like
I think the dog toys won.
The dog toys, like Gucci sued and the dog toys won because it was obvious from the get-go that these dog toys weren't being made by Gucci. Like the customer wasn't coming to them and being confused. But it seems like in this case, the customer was going to these MetaBirkins thinking that they were getting something from Hermes. And that's the distinction, right?
They tried to, so they tried to say like, oh, well, I made... I put a disclaimer on the website.
Girl, I hate disclaimers. You know I hate that. You know how many times, and you'll see this on like hookup websites too, where people will put their photos and then they'll put in the text like, oh, this is a disclaimer that like you don't have the right to use my photos, blah, blah, blah. Like it has any legal effect. Or they'll use music and they'll be like, hey, disclaimer.
I don't have the rights to this music.
Yeah, and you're literally just telling people that you're infringing.
Literally, you're just telling people that you're infringing.
It doesn't do anything. So in this case, he's literally just telling people that he's infringing on their mark.
Yes, like just so you know, this is like not the thing. Yeah, I agree. The disclaimer is just really telling. There was a Jack Daniels one where they called it Bad Spaniels. Okay. And they said instead of like number 7, it was number 2. But there was another, I think it was Gucci or Coochie or something. Yeah. Where it was like a dog toy shaped like a purse or something like that. Yeah. But I think in that case, and that was pretty recent too, but I think in that case, it's like pretty obvious that it was a pun on it. You know what I mean? And it might be in the sphere of products that they could do. Like maybe Gucci would do like a dog toy. They do leashes. I know that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Not human leashes. Dog leashes.
Not yet.
But so it's like they could do a dog toy, but it wasn't named Gucci. It was named like Poochie or something. You know what I mean? So it's like obviously funny. This case is like MetaBirkin.
Yeah, and like because everyone has the ability to go into NFTs. It's the next logical step if everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
So I guess in your opinion, what could have this artist done to kind of like been in that dog toy area where it's obvious from the beginning that this is art? Like if he want, or if they wanted to get away with it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it Birkin,
Right.
to begin with. I mean, say something, like I said, like fantasy purses or something like that, or make it like the Poochie and like make a spin on it. Like maybe not Birkin, we're doing like Perkin or like whatever, because it's like a purse or something. Like really make it clear that this is like not it.
Do you think the fact that the purses were like fuzzy was the attempt to do that, or
that's what they were saying? It's like, oh well, obviously I used a different textile or whatever, but it's like, no, like what's like the difference in textile does not mean that it's a different company. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like
they could work in fur in the future.
When you said it was fuzzy, like I didn't even think of fur. Like in my mind, I just thought like you're looking at a digital image. I was thinking more like an 8-bit. Like the image was fuzzy and it wasn't necessarily like a fur used on it.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, the last thing I want to say about it is like this was a federal district court in New York. So this is like an opportunity to talk about like the federal court system. Like this is, so in the federal court system, there's the state ones, but you have district court, there's an appellate court, and then the Supreme Court. Yeah. And the district courts are by state. So like Arizona has a district court, Nebraska has a district court. Some of them have 1, some of them have like 4.
Okay.
Right? So this is in the Southern District of New York, and that means that the law only applies to that district, right? It doesn't apply to like anything else. If it ends up going to, it's the second appellate court, I think, so like their district, then it'll apply to those group of states. In California, we're in the 9th district, so that includes like California, Oregon, Washington, Alaska, Nevada. So it's like if something is decided in that one, then it covers all those states.
Okay.
So we have a decision from the federal district court, but actually it was a jury. The jury decided. So the jury was like, nah, bitch. It was like a group of people. But so it's like we have that, but it only applies to that. So some other court might decide something different in a different or like a similar case, and that will apply to them. And then eventually like it'll get resolved.
Awesome. Well, enough about NFTs.
You don't even know what we're talking about.
Let's move into our main topic today, which is Disney versus DeSantis.
It's a big one.
Which has actually been like, I think the most fun I've had researching in a minute.
I kind of went deep into it too because I was like, this is way bigger than I thought it was.
Yeah, because there's like several things going on. So like, let's start back at the very beginning.
Back to the beginning.
Yes. I'll start at the beginning. All right.
Thank you.
So all of this pretty much, all of this being Disney suing Governor DeSantis of Florida, started with the passage of the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, which had, do you remember what the actual technical name is?
No. Parental rights, something
Right.
shitty. Yeah.
And that basically said that like gender and sexuality couldn't be discussed in early stages of school, and that's since been expanded through like K through 12.
Yeah.
And at first, Disney did not say anything. There was a change of CEOs, and the new CEO was not really about like taking political stances until all the employees of Disney staged walkouts. And after a bunch of walkouts in Florida and in California, the CEO took a stand to say that he disagreed with the law, with Don't Say Gay, which really upset Governor DeSantis. That was like his big legislation, and it created a lot of turmoil there. In response to Disney taking a political stance, DeSantis started to reevaluate the special tax district.
Special governing status.
Governing status.
Yeah.
So in Florida, there's all these little, there could be a variety of different areas that could be kind of self-governed.
Yeah. Kind of like a county, but like a smaller like area. And if they're self-governing, it's like they're responsible for like public work stuff. So like anything that you would have like a public library or the police department or the fire department or how the sewer works or whatever, like
Right.
that's like what they're responsible for doing. So Disney has been in charge of their own public works since 1967. They're the ones who are like, oh, this is how we're going to do it and work things out or whatever. And they were granted that, like I said, in 1967. So DeSantis was like, oh, I want to change this.
Yeah. So it's their special tax district is called the Reedy Creek Tax District. And it allowed Disney basically to tax itself to pay for all these public utilities instead of taxing the people. And you would think that if you're allowing a corporation to do that, they're not going to tax them. They're going to go cheap.
Yeah.
But Disney actually taxes themselves almost 3 times more than anyone else.
I did not know that.
And actually puts like a lot of time and effort into maintaining their district. So in response to Disney coming out publicly against Don't Say Gay, DeSantis wanted to reevaluate the tax status or the tax district, the Reedy Creek, and initially reevaluate. And
Quote,
initially,
unquote.
He wanted to remove it completely.
Yeah.
But he couldn't do that because Disney has invested so many bonds that if he were to remove the tax status immediately, the state would be required to pay the bonds immediately.
Oh my God, you really did a deep dive into this. You did like a way deep dive into this.
And that doesn't look good for DeSantis. That doesn't look good for the budget. So instead of doing that, he decided to replace the board that runs the thing. So the tax district is still in existence, and instead of a board that's run by Disney appointees, it is now run by DeSantis appointees.
I will like make a point of clarification to say that it wasn't just like a unilateral thing by DeSantis. Like the legislature did it. Like the legislature passed law to change this at his request. So it's like it wasn't just him; it's the whole legislature doing it too.
But Disney did like an amazing move. So pretty much, Disney had a board that was running this Reedy Creek district. And before, like the last day, basically before they went out of power, they passed all these kind of agreements and covenants that stripped the new board of any power going forward, and still retained Disney's rights to build on their property. So Disney can continue to build new roller coasters, new buildings, new hotels, without having to consult the board, and the new board wasn't able to do anything about it. And they did it with this like really interesting thing that's tied to the royal family's bloodline.
Yeah, this is like, you talk to me, you're like, isn't there something about like the royal family? I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm like, what is Disney? I'm like, I thought you were like on this tangent about like, oh, Disney and like castles and like whatever. I'm like, girl, what is she talking about?
Like, girl, did you relapse? You're not making sense anymore.
Did you relapse?
But no, I want to get like all the facts right. So it's tied to the royal family's bloodline, and basically says that these covenants that basically strip the new board of the power and keep Disney in power, runs through. Sorry.
It's like the lifetime of the heirs?
Yeah, it's the lifetime of the heirs of the royal family plus 21.
21 years.
21 years. So it's everyone in the royals family, like the sons, the daughters.
Currently alive?
Currently, no, even born. So like if there's more kids, it keeps on extending the time.
See, this is why, like, this is what lawyers talk about. Like, is it currently alive or is it all future heirs?
And it stems from actually wills and trust law.
Yeah.
Because you're not allowed to have, there's a rule against...
Perpetuities.
Oh,
girl, who passed the bar the first time? Me.
Right.
Rule against perpetuities.
Rule against perpetuities. And I mean, and to boil that down, basically it's saying you can't have a covenant on a land that just lasts forever.
Yeah.
You have to have some measurable thing.
For when it ends.
For when it ends.
Yeah.
But you could structure that measurable thing to last kind of
a long time.
A long time. So Disney's ways of getting around the rule of perpetuity was to enact this like royal bloodline clause that follows the royal bloodline plus 21 years. And apparently that's mostly just like a British thing. In the United States, there's an American version where you would follow a president.
What?
Yeah.
So it's like the lifetime of a president and their heirs?
It could be like the lifetime of the Obama family plus 21 years.
Okay, but I still don't get when it ends, though, because it's like they're presumably all gonna have heirs. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna go on. Like more than likely, everybody's gonna have a child.
Yeah, so it's called the Royal Lives Clause, and it in essence is kind of like a way around the rules against perpetuity. It allows it to establish a timeline that
So like
that it expires in theory, but doesn't.
Yeah,
really
I was gonna say
expire
this is like inspiring in theory. Like
Yeah.
at some point, this bloodline will like die. I'm thinking like there has to be like an apocalypse or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like then that's how this bloodline is going to be ended. But like you're right, like in theory or whatever. So they got around the rule against perpetuities for that. In case we didn't explain, perpetuity means forever. Like if it's in perpetuity, it means forever.
Yeah, like you can't have a rule that says you can't develop a property forever. You have to have it tied to something that's tangible in time, which is what
Interesting.
this is trying to do. So do you want to talk about the response, the actual court case that came from it?
Yeah, so Disney filed first, correct? Yes. So Disney filed suit against DeSantis because they were claiming retaliation and their like free speech rights. There's so much in this case that it's like it's so interesting.
So this is actually in, just to clarify, so in addition to doing this Royal Lives Clause,
Yeah.
Disney is suing in retaliation to their board being replaced.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're suing based on the fact that like they said they pointed out their opposition to the don't say gay bill, and then literally like a year later they got their board replaced and DeSantis is like, you know, taking over and everything like that. So it's like it's obvious retaliation for them sharing what they wanted or like what they desired. And this kind of, I mean, there's another like whole legal tangent with this because it's like they're filing under their free speech rights, saying that it was like a targeted campaign of government retaliation against their speech. And then we get into like, well, do corporations have free speech? Yes, unfortunately. So it's like there's so many like good and bad things that come with this. You know what I mean? It's like we don't like the fact that they have this special taxing district, but they've done a good job with it. And it's like we don't like that, you know, corporations have free speech, but they're like using it to oppose the don't say gay bill. So it's like it's amazing. So I mean, just as like a quick history on like free speech or corporations free speech, we have had this since like the 70s. Like there's been jurisprudence, like Supreme Court cases that say like, oh, the corporations can have a point of view and they can support campaigns and they can, you know, make statements about it and everything like that. I think the like main justification is that corporations are made of people and those people have like, you know, the ability to say what they want to say. But like, to me, it's like, they're made of people. Why aren't they speaking individually? Like this corporation does not have a sentient, you know, it's not sentient. It doesn't have beliefs in and of itself. So I still disagree with it, but it's been around for the 70s, since the 70s. And the latest court case that we have is Citizens United, which is the worst because now,
Give us the quick elevator pitch. What is Citizens United?
It started with Hillary Clinton and people were putting money into corporations were putting money into campaigns, and it got brought to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court was like, no, corporations are people and they can vote with their dollars. So now corporations literally can throw all their money behind candidates legally, like, and be fine. So now all of our like advertising and all of the like campaigns are endorsed by corporations.
I think it's interesting to point out that Citizen United had always had like a conservative slant to it and was always meant for corporations that have more conservative viewpoints to be protected. And this is the first time that it's kind of like circling,
the opposite,
circling back, where you have a very liberal corporation that's suing based on their right to have free speech, but in this case, it's to defend LGBTQ rights.
Yeah. It really is flipped because it's like now we're using it for good, which is like, okay, cool. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. The case that said companies have free speech was First National Bank of Boston v. Bellotti. I do remember reading that. I don't know if you remember. Okay, fine.
I remember the name.
It was in con law. Did you go to con law?
I did go to.
I think that it's pretty obvious that it's retaliation. So I think like they have a good ground to stand on. Like,
Well, it's obvious because DeSantis has specifically said, and his followers have specifically said that we're doing this in response to Disney doing
Yes.
this. And then if you look at his replacement of the board and you look at the other special tax districts, when they weren't, like, the other tax districts are made of board members from the community and the county, not people that have been specifically appointed by the governor.
That's just like shady boots. Like
shady boots. And on top of that, I believe, like, none of that, like, in order to qualify for this board, none of them could have
any ties.
Any ties or, like, theme park experience even.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Why? That's, like, the dumbest thing. Because it's, like, it's, like, the county or, like, whatever it is. But it's, like, the only thing in that district is pretty much, like, Disney World. There are towns around it, but it's, like, you know what I mean? Now we're just, like, making people who don't know anything about anything. But then like, a week later, the new board of 5 people that you just mentioned countersued, saying that this new agreement that they put in the last minute with the whole royalty clause in it was, like, null and void. They just, like, decided themselves that it was, like, null and void. And they're like, well, we don't have to do that. And so they're suing to say, like, we don't have to abide by that agreement that they had made.
And that's currently in process.
Yeah, I mean, like, Disney sued, and then literally a week later, that just happened. So it's like they've just gotten filed, nothing has happened.
And you would think that the courts in Florida all have appointed judges by conservatives, so you would think that that might not fare well for Disney. But, I mean, it circles back to, at the end of the day, corporations having free speech rights are fundamentally conservative. So, yeah, I would think the judges may want to back that.
I mean, there's so much jurisprudence behind it. Like I said, it was, like, from the 70s. Like, I don't think, unless the Supreme Court really wants to do a whole nother, like, Dobbs and turnover, like, established precedent, like, it's there. Like, they have the right to say something, and you obviously retaliated from it. Like, the timeline alone. Like, you put this statement out, and then a year later, your special governing status that has been there for half a century, like, is gone because of that. You know what I mean? I think it's pretty obvious. I think the funniest thing, though, is, like, a quote from the DeSantis board. They said, "This lawsuit is yet another unfortunate example of their hope to undermine the will of Florida voters and operate outside the bounds of the law." And I was like, oh my God, girl, don't tell me about the will of the voters when you were put in this, like, unelected position by the governor. Like, there is no will of the voters. Nobody voted for this. You know what I mean? The legislature voted for it, and sure, you voted for the legislature, but, like, no will of the voters is being overturned. I'm like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
It's also like if Disney didn't have these special tax privileges, it's not like Florida could build these resources on its own. Like, the only way that Disney is able to do this is that they're being extra hard on themselves with the taxes and taxing themselves so much. If this fell to the county to raise the money to provide all the resources that are required for Disney World, the county wouldn't be able to do it. They would be at a deficit.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like Disney, like, fuck Florida. Why don't you just, like, go move somewhere else? Like, it's not just, like, a ride or two. It's like it's like a whole complex. Like, a whole complex. It would be like moving a whole city.
Yeah. I mean, I think 80,000 people work there. Yeah. Like, that's a city in and of itself. Like, just the people who work there. I'm sure it might be even more. Yeah. But yeah.
One of the articles I was reading likened Disney World to the Vegas Strip. It would be like asking the Vegas Strip to completely relocate somewhere. And then how do you know that the new place that you're relocating to, like,
they can't
the
just up and go,
doesn't change?
I think, to me,
personally,
they should do, like, the writer's strike, and I think they should just shut down Disney World, and then be like, deal with it, Florida, because it's like, girl, this is probably the largest employer in Florida. Like, they're not going to have any flights. There's not going to be any hotel bookings. There's not going to be any, like, ancillary services. Like, people, I mean, hopefully they'll pay their employees so, like, they don't not get paid. But, you know what I mean? Like, if they shut down, the state will hurt, like, for sure. It's like what's going on with the writer's strike. I mean, they're shutting down, and the LA economy is going to be hurt a lot. Like, they should put on the financial pressure in Florida. Like, I think if they really shut it down, that would be a significant thing, and then they would really kind of, like, have a big piece of leverage above DeSantis.
Yeah, no, I think that would work.
You're like, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah,
any other ideas
great.
Available? Anybody have anything else to say? Great, moving on.
I don't know. It's the whole case seems pretty straightforward that they are being targeted for their free speech. And like a couple years ago, I would be like, oh, great, let's just let this go to the Supreme Court and have the Supreme Court decide it. But the Supreme Court doesn't really seem that reliable anymore. So,
and then this is like another thing. I mean, kind of the same thing. Like to talk about with the Hermes thing is that they're filing in the federal district court in Florida, right? I think there's like 3 or 4 there, but they're filing there. Whatever the outcome for both of these cases, which could be consolidated, like we don't know, but whatever the outcome from these cases, they're surely going to be appealed, and then it has to go to the next one, and then it has to go to the Supreme Court. So it's like this is going to be like years going on. And what really truly pisses me off, and what I think Florida people or like voters should be upset about is like this. They're going to pay for this, like for this literal like pissing match that like DeSantis is doing, and be like, oh, you did that, I'm gonna do this, blah, blah, blah. Like the taxpayers are gonna be paying millions of dollars in legal fees for this stupid thing. Like, it's so infuriating to me.
It is. I mean, another like perspective on that is that DeSantis is considering his presidential bid, and this is a way to keep his name in the media.
But it's all like literally at what cost? Like, you know what I mean?
Not his cost.
Yeah, not his cost. He doesn't give a shit. Like, it's the whole, like, the voters are going to be paying for it forever. It's like, do you really want to be wasting your state's money on this stuff?
So going back to kind of the royal provision, do you think that's going to hold? Like, do you think it seems like a smart move on Disney? Do you think they're able to stick with that?
I mean, I think it depends. Hey, if you know any lawyers, the one thing that they're always going to say is it depends.
That's the stupidest law school answer, yeah.
But no, I think it really does depend on like what the law is regarding those specific clauses. Like, have they been allowed in the past?
Yeah.
Like, and have they been upheld? Then if so, yes. You know what I mean? I literally have never heard of that, and it does seem to circumvent the rule against perpetuities, because it's like it's not gonna end. You know what I mean? There is no definitive date.
Yeah.
I think there should be some measurable date, like it should be measurable. You know what I mean? And I don't think that is very measurable.
Well, maybe I had it wrong. Maybe it is measurable by the people who are alive.
If it is alive now, then it's like whoever Prince George is or whatever the like youngest one is.
Yeah.
It's like his lifetime plus 21. Okay, cool. Like, then that'll be like 121 years or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I maybe misspoke earlier. I don't know for sure. What about your thoughts on DeSantis threatening new taxes, other theme parks?
It's like
putting a state prison right next to Disney World.
Literally, all those things are just more ammo for Disney.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think especially now that the lawsuit's filed, like anything that he does in the future to disturb Disney could be seen as continuing to retaliate.
Absolutely. It's like, oh, and he's doing this. Oh, and he's doing this. It's like, obviously, he's doing a little pissy contest. You know what I mean? He's just kind of piling it on. I think what's really shady boots is that the Florida legislature just approved a new bill that will go to his desk to sign that will shield travel records from like higher authorities in the state. So it would shield his travel records like as governor. So it's like we wouldn't know what you're using state money to like go visit or do anything like that.
Yeah.
That's shady boots.
It's shit. How does that relate to Disney though?
Oh, I mean,
it's a tangent. Okay.
No, not a tangent. Just the whole everybody's being shady boots in the Florida legislature. Like, you know what I mean? It's like they're all in cahoots together, and they're all doing these things to like protect him for whatever reason. But it's like it's just shady boots all around.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So there's 436,000 jobs. Here I am saying 80. They have 463,000 jobs that Disney.
That's just Disney alone. And that's not counting like kind of ancillary jobs of like non-Disney hotels and like restaurants. And
Maybe. But like, come on. Like, you're really going to fuck with the largest employer in your state like this much?
And your largest taxpayer in the state.
For no reason, because they just came out and said that like they didn't like your bill. Like, it's such a stupid use of power.
I agree.
Any other thoughts? I mean, you went on a deep dive.
Yeah, no, I think
I have to say this case was way more cool than I thought it was, because it's like there's so many hidden pockets that we don't think about. Like, who thought that this was gonna have the rule of perpetuities with like the, you know what I mean, the like royal legion or whatever.
Yeah,
like
that's one of those things you learn in law school. That's like you need to know this for the bar exam, but you're never
going to use it
again.
except for this case.
Except
and
for
the
this
fact
case.
that like this is all around like corporate free speech and like, you know what I mean? And then it has to do with like the Don't Say Gay bill. Like there's a whole bunch of like overlapping things that get involved in this. So I think it's like way more interesting than I had thought it was going to be.
I agree. Yeah, once I got into it, there were a lot more moving parts than just the free speech thing.
I love it. I love talking about this with you. Thank you for doing all the research. I mean, I did the research, but you did extra research.
Thank you for showing up.
Thank you for being here. And thank you for being here for another episode of Reading is Fundamental. Check us out next time.
Because reading is what?
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Reading is Fundamental.
Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so we can keep bringing you the show for free. As a reminder, Reading is Fundamental is brought to you by Fleshbot.com, the leading resource for gay erotica.
DM us with your comments, questions, and let us know what you want to hear.
Or you can email us at readingisfundamentalpodcast@gmail.com.
Until next time,
Remember to read your damn contracts. Why?
because reading is what?
Fundamental.
Fundamental.
Fundamental.